We all know that real estate has created more millionaires than any other industry on the planet. We also know that it has created a lot of heartache due to mismanagement, overborrowing, and just simple life events that happen to all of us. Welcome to the CashFlowPro podcast. My name is Casey Brown, and I am your fearless leader. And although we might be bourbon sipping and at times foul-mouthed Southerners, we will always do our best to be honest, straightforward, and due diligent with all of the information we pass along to you. Welcome to the show. Hey there, and welcome to today's episode of CashFlowPro, your daily real estate investing podcast and YouTube channel. I'm here today with Jim Monk from Clozzits. That's Clozzits. So, Jim, how are you today, sir?
I am great, Casey. Glad to be on.
Absolutely. Well, we're glad to have you. And as you and I were just, I just got tickled at when I thought, man, okay, how are we going to make a discussion about closets interesting? And when you said, man, we're going to hit this, we're going to hit that, I'm like, okay, cool. I can get on board with that because we're money guys, we're systems guys. I mean, you know, or systems folks, guys and ladies. And so we really are always interested in how we can pep up the discussion of how we can add value to the tenant's life, which adds value to the rent, which adds value to blah, blah, blah on down the pipe, and adds return to our investors' pockets. So tell us a little bit about yourself, and then let's dive in and see if we can make some sense of how upgrading your tenants' stuff can make a difference.
Well, let me start by saying that I've been in the seat as an owner of properties, multifamily specifically, and so forth. So I know what that's like. And so my background is as an executive working in the financial services realm, and I had the liberty of starting to passively invest in properties on the multifamily front. And my business partner and I were basically sitting around one day. He ran the largest renovations company for multifamily in the country. And I said, what are the big guys doing? You know, you see them out there, they're putting flooring in, they're putting the granite countertops or hard surfaces, but what are they doing to increase with the least amount of, money out of pocket? Because, I don't want to go and spend X number of amount per door. And, he came back after a little while and he said, you know what? I think there's an area that's not focused on, and that's the closet. And I said, well, I've got to see a 3 to 5% rate of return on some of my things. So if we're gonna raise rents, if we're gonna raise the rents here, I need to see what I can do that's quick and doesn't cost me a lot of money, and that'll hit my NOI in a positive manner. So when I get ready to exit, then I've got good upside on it. And so we started experimenting with the closet systems. And what we found very quickly is other companies started reaching out to us saying, hey, where'd you get your closet from? Because, we're hearing people in the vicinity within a 5 to 10 mile radius that were shopping us coming in and saying, we want that because the residents are starting to ask for it now. And we're actually based in Dallas here.
Okay.
And so what I can tell you to some of the economics behind it is that my focus is closets. We're in a multitude of markets now in less than 3 years. Is that we were seeing and still seeing even now between a $30 to $75 a month rent increase on each of the units that we install our system on for our clients. And we're installing thousands of them a year now. And so the clients we work with see this repeatedly now happening. And so go ahead. I know you're probably gonna have a question about that even just right there.
I guess I'm trying to think when we start talking about return. Now, obviously, I think those of us that are married can certainly attest to having a happy wife at home because she can keep her closet organized. We got to figure out how to make closets bigger, though, for some reason. I don't know. At least I do.
Well, when you do, let me know, because it's exactly you're speaking truth there.
I know you're doing your best to make them bigger because you're starting to say, hey, let's go all the way to the ceiling with these things instead of. But with that being said, I know that's jokingly. So I'm just trying to figure. Let's go back and let's talk about what the cost of one of the systems. Like, let's say we have one unit that we're completely redoing, or one unit
Right.
that we want to increase the rent on. What what is the cost of that system, and then what are you actually seeing in? Obviously, finding a tenant that's willing to rent a place to live is just there still has to be value, and obviously the value that we
Yep.
provide to anybody, as long as somebody feels like they're paying for that value, everything's good. And
Right.
obviously from the home sales perspective, there's two things that sell a house, and that is kitchens and bathrooms. Now the third thing that's
Yep.
kind of the offshoot there is closets. And if the ladies don't feel like there's enough room for their clothes, or there's not, so I know that it is, like, let's say it's at least in the top 5 things people look at when they start shopping for a house, whether that be to rent or whether that be to own, either way. So we
Correct.
definitely know we're way up there on the scale, and then it becomes eye candy to a certain degree, but to a certain degree too, that eye candy culminates into a bundled up bunch of things that somebody can look at and say, "Oh my God, this apartment has this, and this. I definitely will pay X amount of dollars," and it being the same square footage as the one down the road that doesn't have this, the difference.
That's exactly right. So there are two things that are going on, I think, and you bring up a very valid point. One is, first off, on the cost. Since we are the manufacturer installer, we're from cradle to grave on this product. We're able to cut out a lot of the middle individuals that happen to touch the product. Because that's one of the biggest issues. So if you go to Home Depot, you go to Lowe's, they're middle people. So we're direct to manufacturing, and so what that allows us to do is come in, and our typical client on a multifamily unit, and our typical client is someone who's going to have A class or B class properties. A lot more in the B front. We do have some that are in C, but that I say it's very unique because they're going to hold for a long period of time, and they're okay with the ROI being extended out further.
Okay.
But for our clients in multifamily, they're looking at about $1,200 a unit for a primary closet to be installed. That's us going in, doing everything, and installing it. And then what they're looking for out of that is between a $30 to $50 rent bump on that traditionally. What that means to them is that they're seeing a kind of a break even stance at year 3 to 3.5, for every, about 34 to 37% ROI is what that comes out to.
Okay.
And then you're looking at, for our clients in particular, what they're looking for, the ones that are doing value adds and they're looking to exit. Every one of our clients today and I'll again go on the record because we have case studies for this, are seeing between 9 and 11x for every dollar they invest with us. So what it does, it means it impacts their NOI, that net operating income, based on the current cap rates and so forth that are out there. Once they go to exit right now, we've seen a lot of that. That's the return they're seeing. And so the benefit we get is they go, great. When we go to acquire, we want to build you into the pro forma
Yep.
as one of the value adds. But then the other thing that's happening is the new client, or basically the new client, the new acquiree that comes on, is someone that says, "Hey, I can't believe this is working."
Yeah.
Now that's one side of it. On the individual home front, we work with a lot of REITs that have individual homes. Now the cost of those being installed is more expensive because you're usually dealing with a bigger closet,
Yeah.
but they're able to see between a 75 and $100 rent bump per month, because you're right, the same things hold true. They're looking for something that's eye candy, but they're also looking for something that's going to have storage.
Yeah.
I mean, it's critical. And so I know it's not sexy to talk about the closet. What's sexy about the closet to me is what kind of returns I could see on that, what our clients see in a return.
Yeah. Well, there's nothing handier in this world than to be able to do away with the space that a dresser takes up. And
It's true.
if you've got a spot, because honestly, the closet, and we're getting into things that, I mean, I guess I'm not an expert in, and I'm just kind of throwing these out there as from a perception of saying, hey, I've been through this in my life at some point. And when you're tight on space, and you have the choice of saying, "Hey, we can either have a really efficient closet system here, or we can have a dresser that takes up a whole spot in the room, whatever bedroom." And when you start looking at saying, "Okay, hey, we can do away with the dresser and we can make this closet more efficient," and I was, and on the retail level, closet systems, like the first time I ever shopped for them on a retail level, like going,
Shocking, right?
yeah,
The cost.
and I was like, "Man, those people need to be taken out back and flogged for asking that kind of a price for a closet system." I was like, "This shit is press."
And you need to be handy,
Yeah.
right?
I mean, I was like, "This shit is pressboard and rods. I mean, what are we talking about
That's
here?"
right.
And
Yeah. Which
so,
is not what our product is.
yeah, yeah, that's what I was getting ready to get at, was depreciable life, and maintenance, because as property owners, or as syndicators or capital raisers or whatever, we're all, the one common thread that runs through all of us is we want to set it and forget
Appreciation.
it.
Yep.
And we don't want something that we're going to have to come back and be like, "Oh my God, all right, so that board down there that's holding the shoes is broke. Well, that makes everything else useless until that's fixed. And now we've got to wait for the closet guy to come fix that." And so that's what I guess, that's probably, to me, even above and beyond the cost of the thing, or the cost of doing that in every unit that you have, is the maintenance that's involved, or the potential maintenance that's involved. Because as we're all well aware, tenants are tough on things. They're hard on things.
They
They
are.
just are, because there's a degree of maybe unintentional. They're unintentionally harder on things, but they just know that it's not theirs, and whether it's broke or not in
Yep.
5 years isn't really going to make a difference to them.
It's not relevant to them. Yep.
So I guess those are just a few things that I bring up, in an
So,
effort to.
and I just, yeah, and I grabbed this because my staff had put this here. When you talk about particle wood, this is about what the industry looks like right here
Yep,
on a product.
yep. And for the
Okay.
listeners that are listening and not watching, he obviously just held up the piece of particle board that we all are very familiar with, that comes in the piece it together, hit it with a rubber mallet kind of a package. So
Correct. And this is our product.
yeah,
It's a plywood based product. Now, why is it a plywood based product? And it's not painted. It's a melamine finish. Now, the reason why, because maintenance crews came in and said the same thing. Look, we don't want to have to be replacing this in 2 years when someone puts 300 pounds of weight on it. We don't want to have to screw with this. That's
yeah,
basically what they said. And so we heard loud and clear. And as an owner, myself, and seeing that, like you're talking about, the last thing I want to deal with is having someone going, well, that's not fixed. You need to fix that, or it's broken. And so we beefed it up for that reason,
yeah,
because to your point, I don't want to have to, mess with it for 10 years at least.
yeah.
That's how I look at everything.
Because
It needs to have a long span.
when my wife loaded the damn closet down at home and the bar broke, do you know what she did about it? "Hey,
Turn,
bar
there
broke
you go,
in
turn.
here."
Yep.
So it's just like, gosh dang. But yeah, man, I mean, that's that. If you're just speaking to quality alone, that right there is definitely a reason to give at least your company a nod to say, "Hey, check this out," because because once that particle board stuff, once something pulls out of it or strips out of it or it crumbles,
It's done.
man, and you know
It's
what?
it's done.
And then by the time somebody goes out and they're like, "Oh, hey, can I get this replacement part?" Well, hell, by the time you did that, you might as well buy 10 new ones.
That's
And
right.
and then you got to put that bad boy together. So, um, with that
I
being,
think philosoph Go, I'm
I
sorry,
was just
Jason.
going to say, what type of service stuff goes along with what you all do?
So I think one of the things that, when you talk about the servicing aspect of it, like I said, we're full turnkey, which means one of two things. We have clients that'll buy the product from us. We'll design the product at no cost to them and then ship out the material.
Hmm.
So they'll do their own installation, their own labor with their own maintenance crews, or if they're a small owner, they may do it themselves. I'm definitely going to tell you, it's not lightweight material,
Yeah.
so it's pretty darn heavy, and so they can find that physically challenging. But as a company, what we do is we go in, we design the product after getting measurements. We then come in and say, okay, as you're doing, and this is what one of the things that makes us unique. We're talking about doing things on the turns. Typically, we're doing is we're on the turns or on the renovation side of things, and so when the client comes to us, they're going, "Hey, we have 8 vacant units this month or 4 vacant units this month. Can you install here?" Now, we do that for a particular reason, and we do occupied as well. But the reason why we did that originally was because, for one, a lot of our clients said we don't have the budget, and so they're doing it as they can see it work. And then two, because they're going and doing these renovations or light renovations, with occupancy levels being high right now, they're giving us 24 hours. So we have to be in and be out
Yeah,
quickly. So we're in and out on an install within 2.5 hours. From the time we hit the ground on that property to the time we're leaving, cleanup and everything, we're out in 2.5 hours.
gotcha.
And so
That's yeah.
we're quick.
And then and then I'm assuming the repairs are just kind of as they come along, and then or in your home market or whatever, and then um,
Correct.
well, that's
Correct.
awesome, man. I mean, and it's just it's often hard for us to sit here and discuss um, these kinds of things because there is so many one-off ideas that people come up with to churn a little bit extra uh, profit or a little bit of extra money out of a piece of property, and so but I found this intriguing simply because, well, for one, because I saw the way my wife's face lit up when we talk about closets for our house. I mean, it was just like
Right.
it was one of those things where it just made it seemed like it made a ultra important spot of the house completely useful, completely like I almost at times thought she would just rather sit in our closet and stare at the system than she would like she didn't forget to cook dinner, believe me. You can see that down here, but
Good.
she, but then do a lot of other things. So I guess I just am enamored at the idea that you all have kind of taken this and added something between a wholesale and a retail element to it, where people can buy at a reasonable price enough to increase their NOI or increase the eye candy that somebody's going to see because you know there, I always talk about it on this show because we're not that many years separated from when apartments were vacant all over the country.
Oh,
Um,
so true.
and everybody was looking for tenants. Everybody had that canvas sign hanging over the side of their building that said free plasma screen TV with the signing of a 1 year lease. And so there's going to come a time when these things are these eye candy items are going to become super super important to the ROI or the leasability of some of these places. Because there
That's
again, it's just like anything else. You have to differentiate yourself from the next guy or the last guy. And
that's exactly right. I mean, for us, the ones I was talking about earlier that are the C class, that is the reason why they're doing it, is because they need to differentiate in markets that they're in. It's not because they want to spend the money. And typically those are smaller closets anyway. They're not even at that that price point I was talking about. They're usually typically a smaller footprint. But the reality of it is that again, it's not overly sexy. The subject's not. But what I can tell you, and I've had a lot of executives ask over the last couple of years, why are we having these conversations? And I'll say, well, COVID hit. Now people are working from home a lot more. They're staying there. Two, you have millennials who are out there. They're looking for resort type of amenities. And when you've got a lot of new construction happening, like here in Dallas, that's a lot of competition that's loaded out with amenities. It's amenity rich.
mhm,
And three, you've got boomers out there like my mom who have a lifetime supply of stuff.
yep,
And that's a nice way of putting it.
my mom's got
And
a
she
lifetime. She's got enough stuff for at least 10 lifetimes.
That's where I'm at. It's all the knickknacks and everything
Yeah,
else, but
my wife's working on
it's
that for our kids.
oh, good
I
luck.
always tell her, I'm like, listen, honey, you better hope you don't die first, because if you do, I can guarantee you there's
Stuff's
going to be
gone.
like a 10-yard dumpster parked at the front of our house, and we're gonna it's all going, every bit of it. Well, that
Boy,
was that was me, Malls. I mean, sorry. I-
yeah, I don't think a lot of us have much sentimental value to things.
that's right.
At least I
I
don't.
I don't. So anyway, but yeah,
Yeah,
so it's really intriguing, and when you start looking at it, when you get down to the guts of saying, hey, if I add, like, let's just say you add $1,500 a $1,500 system to a unit. And if you're going through and doing it, because let's look at it from the standpoint of saying, okay, hey, here's a $1,500 system, or you're going to spend $400 doing the wire stuff. So you're really looking at an $1,100 capex expense, and if your $1,100 gives you even you said a $30 to $50 rent bump, let's say it does a $30 rent bump. You're 36 months in. Well, yeah. So I mean, actually probably like 40 months in to get to just getting that capex recouped. But if you look at it and try to quantify rentability some kind of way, then you can really kind of turn that key towards saying, hey, this is an added value of X amount of dollars, which is probably going to be higher than that. So that's where this discussion has really got me intrigued, is because I always looked at it. There was when we were in the home building business, they came out with several years ago the I call it the breaker box for plumbing. Okay, it's the PEX
Oh yeah.
manifold, right?
Yep.
And obviously, those of us that have been in building don't know that that's not a necessity. It ultimately ends up becoming eye candy for that matter, but it's one of those pieces of eye candy that you can't quantify and say, hey, this adds this many dollars to the house. But what it does add is when mom walks in there and starts thinking about, hey, I'm at home by myself and dishwasher starts spewing water everywhere. All I got to
Yeah,
do
dude.
is go out here and hit this button, right? Now, how do you
Yep.
quantify that? How do you quantify that into dollars and say, hey, this $1,000 manifold that we're going to put in adds how much value to the house? Well, it's the same thing with this. When you start looking at it and them saying, mom comes in and says, man, I love this in here. I can put my whatever here, there, just like you got it back there. And how do you quantify that in saying, hey, I guess you just have to walk through that
Well,
path.
I'll tell you some of what our clients do. So some of our clients look at how long a floor plan is on market. They will look at how long that it takes to lease up. So they're looking at maybe shortening the time that that unit is vacant. And every day, there's cost of that. And so they're looking at that. We have clients that usually, frankly, what they'll do is they'll give us the crappiest unit that they have and have us throw it in there and see if it leases up any faster. And typically they're looking for between a 3 to 7 day improvement, if not more. Some of them have been 30 days on market. Again, it may be because it's a weird design of an apartment, or maybe whatever it might be. And when it does lease up like that, they go, okay, well, let's go see a little bit more. And what they'll do is they'll start stair stepping that and doing more and more with us. And so they usually give us crappiest when they can. And I laugh because they not only will get the rent increase, they'll lease up sooner. But that's one way to measure is, can I lease up this property sooner, this unit type sooner than what I was expecting, and can I get a rent increase out of it?
Wow. Okay. Well, and that's definitely a way to, and like I said, when you start talking about quantifying, and yeah, I mean everybody had, and it's interesting to me how some of these guys can piece these things together to end up actually being able to put a number on something like that, and
Right.
that's pretty ingenuitive and shows your marketing skill for one, and actually being able to dive in and kind of wiggle your way through and figure out, hey, where can I waller out the biggest niche hole here so that I can get started. um
Right. I would say this one other thing, Casey, that I would say that we have clients do. I think that's actually pretty clever. I thought, a lot of us, even when I started, we would do, hey, 1 month of rent free, and you
yeah.
build that into your cost and so forth. Well, a number of these guys are coming in and either doing, hey, we've got an upgraded closet in the unit, uh, or they'll come in and do it on the lease up even. They'll say, hey, we're getting ready to lease up. By the way, you're getting a 2 to 3% rent increase or even more, but we're coming in and we're doing this improvement on the property. and it's a light, let's call it light renovation. And they're going in and doing that, maybe doing doorknobs and stuff, or a thermostat. And it's a justification for doing it. It's improving it. And again, it's improving that NOI and the overall asset value of that property.
Yeah, because if you've got like say a $2,000 budget for each unit, and yours is like say 12 or 13, $1,400 of that, leaves quite a bit of room to upgrade doorknobs and upgrade the dishwasher or upgrade the whatever,
Right.
and that's pretty good. And then, like you said, if you're looking at a $1,500 a month apartment and you're talking about a rent increase of let's say 5%, I mean, you're talking about
Yeah.
$75. Man, that could pay for that closet system pretty quick. And
Correct.
again, it adds that eye candy to the bottom line. And then again, my biggest hesitation with all to kind of bring all of these balloon strings back together that I've gone off talking
Yeah.
about, the you've proven that your product is durable by obviously the side of what the materials that you use. My only hesitation still resides the in the maintenance of it, I guess, in general.
Hi, this is Casey Brown, host of the CashFlow Pro podcast and YouTube channel. Have you been thinking about investing in real estate but just don't know where to begin? I'd like to help by inviting you to check out our website at www.3000capital.com. There you will find an array of material that will help you learn all about real estate syndication. And while you're there, be sure to check out our free video series download titled 5 Must-Know Keys to Success in Passive Real Estate Investing. I'd also like to personally thank you for making CashFlow Pro part of your day. Now, back to the show.
Sure.
And again, that's something that I guess would probably come along if somebody's out there that says, "Hey, I have the same question or same objection." It would just drive to the point of saying, "Hey, the maintenance of these things. What do we have to do to make sure we can maintain these and things, keep them in good shape? Where do we get parts? How hard is it to get parts? How many of these do we have to keep on hand in order to have a good supply of parts?" And that's just, I guess that's with anything though. So maybe
So
I'm
it's
just
a great
overthinking
question.
that.
I will tell you, with over 10,000 installs in less than 3 years now, so we've been very blessed to work with really large companies,
Sure.
the Gray Stars, the Night Vest. I mean, for the first couple of years, our smallest client had about 3 billion in assets. And so big clients, out of over 10,000 installs, we've now only replaced two rods that were stolen and one side panel that warped. And the reason I know that is because I wanted to know why. We have very little maintenance related issues
Yeah.
uh, on that,
Yep.
and because again, the way we're designed is if we're going out for a second visit, we're losing money. The rods, I hate to say it, what they did was they literally grabbed the rods, pulled them off, and then took all their clothes. I mean, it happens. You know, there's
Well,
not
yeah,
just
and that's the one those are the folks I'm talking about. I'm not.
yeah,
You have for every one person that does what you're saying, you have 1,000 that
don't do any
aren't
of that.
being chased off and pissed off
That's
and
right.
whatever else. The people that are chased off and pissed off when they have to leave because they didn't do what they said they were going to do, those are the ones you have to worry about. And then again, before we know it, you just run into to all kinds of different issues there. But that's with any business. You have the nuances
Absolutely.
of whatever. So anyway, well, listen, man, very interesting discussion. Is there anything you'd like to add? Obviously, we're going to get to how people can contact you. We've got a few more questions to go that are just general podcast questions. But is there anything else about the product that maybe you'd like to add that people can find when they do get a obviously you're not going to like if one person wants to do their closet at their house, you don't take those phone calls, do you? Are you all mostly?
Not today.
Yeah.
Not today.
Yeah, I didn't.
We get asked. I'd say give us about a year and a half. It's been asked so much of us that we are evaluating that right now. But I would say that, you know, if you're an owner or part of an ownership group or something of that nature, don't underestimate it, because I think a lot of people can be naysayers to this type of stuff. But what I would say is, we work with a lot of, to your point, sophisticated individuals, companies that have done a lot of number crunching, and frankly, it comes down to the numbers. I don't think they really give a crap about the product. They're like, great, as long as it's going to produce for me, that's what I really need to see. And I get it, because I'm right there too. I want to see a return on the properties that I've owned, or I'm looking to exit
Yeah,
on at some point.
and but anybody that's in this business that doesn't understand capex doesn't need to be in this business. I mean,
Well, sure.
we all have to have a certain degree of non-scarability when it comes to capex. I mean, we can't be scared to add to these assets.
That's exactly right. It's where you do it at. And I'll tell you that where we compete on, it's very odd. Where we compete is sometimes against backsplashes, and where they spend their money. Sometimes it might be on appliances, is where you'll see us come in. But a lot of times what they're saying is, let's look at what we've got going on, and we'll figure it out. Again, it depends on each property, as you know.
Yeah. Well, and let's be honest. I mean, we all know that when you're doing the individual, like if my wife called and said, "Hey, Jim, I want you to design my closet." I mean, you're going to spend a lot more time, and it's going to be a lot more intricate. It's going to be a lot more expensive than $1,500. But what is right now? What is kind of your minimum? They call it on Alibaba minimum order quantity.
So for us, typically, if their client is doing it themselves, we typically say, look, if you're going to do the installations yourself, I would say 5 units. We can ship you 5 units of material. And part of the reason behind that is just simply because the cost of moving material today, logistics, is expensive.
Yes, it is.
And if you're going to, it is. And if you're going to make a move, we just tell people, look, it's not, we can sell you one. And we do. We have clients we'll sell one to, but I'm telling you, the freight will eat you alive
Yeah, yeah,
in
yeah,
that stuff.
yeah.
But so we usually say five is a good number to start with. If we're doing installations, we're typically wanting to see between 5 to 8 turns a month out of a property.
Okay.
So we're at least doing that. Some clients, they do more, some do less.
So if we have 100 units and we're slowly renovating them and we're doing them 5 or 6 at a time, that's something that
Mhm.
you could
Oh yeah,
call in and keep that train moving forward as we went forward, right?
correct. Yeah. What makes us again unique is we have our own warehouses, we have our own staff and so forth for installation. So we're just getting built into your line, and because it's such a short deal, we're kind of coming in right there when paint's done and flooring's getting done, and we're moving into that phase typically.
Awesome. Cool deal. All right. Well, listen, a couple of questions we ask every guest that comes on the show. There's no right or wrong answer, but the first question is, what is the best book that you have recently read or are currently reading?
Traction.
Had somebody
It's
else
a
say
really
that
great
just the other day.
it's a great book as it relates to ownership and scalability.
Yeah.
I totally recommend that book.
Awesome, man. Because yeah, scalability is we all want to talk about scalability. We all have scalability dreams and aspirations, but to actually be scalable is where things get difficult. So cool.
That's correct.
All right, what is a dream vacation that you've either taken or hope to take?
Bora Bora. I've
Ah,
not been. I want to go. I was just talking about that with a girlfriend, and I was like, Bora Bora would be nice.
yeah,
That would be a dream one. That's one I've not taken.
I would agree. I think that would be. I've oftentimes said anybody that doesn't live in a location like that needs to have their head examined, which would include me having to have
I'm there
my head
too.
examined. So anyway, all right, cool. So how can if we have a syndicator or an apartment owner or somebody that desires to get in touch with you about your services, what is the best way for them to do that?
Email. They can reach me at jmonk, and that's JMONK at clozzits.com, or hit me up on LinkedIn.
Cool. All right. Well, Jim, thank you so much for taking the time out to be with us today. I hope that the listeners have found some value in adding not just the physical part of the closet, but adding to the bottom line so that you can adding to the unit so that you can add to your bottom line, which
Right.
ultimately adds to our investors' bottom lines at the same time. So anyway, awesome, Jim. Thank you so much. And listeners, as always, please head down and leave us a 5-star review along with a written review so that other listeners or potential listeners may know what we talk about here on the CashFlow Pro. And also, while you're there, please hit that subscribe button with your finger, ears, eyes, elbow, whatever you need to do to make that subscribe happen. Give us that, and we hope everybody has a wonderful rest of the day. Jim, thank you again so much.
Likewise, Casey.
CashFlow Pro is hosted by Casey Brown, founder and CEO of 3000 Capital, a commercial real estate investment firm committed to providing its investors with ongoing cash flow and helping them build long-term wealth. If you enjoyed today's podcast, make sure to hit that subscribe button so you'll be notified about all our future episodes. You can find more information about us and our investment philosophy by clicking the link in the show notes below. Thanks for listening.